I want that. Special delivery. I need that. Special delivery. Welcome to the Special Delivery Podcast. I am your host, Special, and on this show, I like to do one of two things. Either I'm highlighting brand new music that's dropped, or I'm sitting down with an artist to break down their latest project, and you know that's what we're doing today. Jay lately joined me to break down his latest album, Tuesday, and you know we talked about everything from the production, the title, the features, the cover art, and just so many interesting conversations about his lyrics and his mindset while making this, including conversations about control, not only taking control of the things that you can in your day-to-day life, but also creatively surrounding yourself with people you trust so you don't have to be in control of everything, plus so much more. So let's get into it.
Hey, what's up? This is Jay lately. How's everyone doing out there?
Yeah, he's back. New album. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here, man. We broke down Be Fucking Happy, a year and a half ago? 2 years ago?
I think it was almost 2 years by now. It's probably 2 years.
Yeah. If the kids haven't heard that, please go back and listen to that. But today, we're talking about Tuesday.
Yes.
Yes. We got to start with the album title. I know you've broken it down on Instagram a little bit, but for the people who missed that, why Tuesday?
So it originally came from, I have a line on one of my previous albums, not Be Fucking Happy, but before that, that says, it could all change on a Tuesday. That's always been one of my favorite lines I've written, or I don't know why it stuck with me. Maybe I heard something like that before I even wrote it. I don't know, but it's always kind of like stuck in my head. And it's this idea that we're always like waiting for the weekend or like the important time or like the big moment or something. Everyone's waiting for their big moment or something like that. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, your big moment is like when you make it, kind of, or the important things are when you make them happen, or whenever they happen. They could happen on a Tuesday. Like your whole life could change. You know what I mean? You could come up big time or you could lose everything. The same way it could happen on a Friday night, the same way it could happen on a Saturday, you know. And so it's just kind of like reminding yourself, everything I'm doing, like, it's important. I hold the power right in my hands right now today to make that difference, whether positive or negative, you know.
No, it's just really about having the control. Like, people talk about it too, especially when it comes to like New Year's resolutions and shit. And it's like, you don't have to wait for the new year to do something. You're in control of it and just make it happen. Don't wait for something.
You know, so I think sometimes we kind of forget what we actually, there's so much that we're not in control of that sometimes becomes overwhelming, and we kind of forget, like, we do have control over our emotions. We do have control over our happiness. We do have control over our productivity. We do have control over these things. Like, yeah, there's outside influences, but like there are still things you get. Like, those are yours, you know?
They are yours, and you better own them, because goodness gracious, everybody else is, so shit. I'm just saying.
Right.
Then we get to the cover art. You in the laundromat. It's so clean, like fresh and clean. Not even the laundromat, just the colors and the way it's edited. What was it like doing that cover art?
Well, I've been wanting to do that for some in a laundromat for a long time. There's something about a laundromat that is just like what you said right there. It's just like, I'm not OCD, but in certain ways I'm like OCD. Almost visually I'm OCD kind of, or whatever. Like, I really like lines being in line and like stuff like that. So there's something about like all the circles of the laundry machines are lined up, and then there's these straight lines, and then the colors are like these crisp colors and stuff. Like, I used to go do laundry when I was living at my last spot, because I didn't have a laundry machine, so I could go to the laundromat, and I'd just be sitting in there while my laundry's going, like taking pictures, like, you know what I mean? Because it's so tight.
All
like,
the symmetry.
The symmetry, exactly. So like, I've always kind of wanted to do that, and I think it's kind of like a perfect representation of the album title. It's like, something so plain can be so beautiful, or something so like overlooked can be so beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, a fucking laundromat, there's trash on the floor, like whatever. You know, there's like a thing of beauty there, and like appreciating that matters more than like sprucing it up or something. You know what I mean?
Have you heard the interview that Andre 3000 did with Rick Rubin?
No, I haven't listened yet.
It's incredible. I keep telling people, I'm like, it's so good you might cry. Like, he really breaks down what it's like being an artist and just kind of dealing with the ins and outs of it and all that stuff. But he talks about a laundromat too, and he talks about how he just loves the community of it and the familiarness and just the emotions that it brings, because there is like this cleaning aspect, but there's also just like everybody from all walks of life is coming in here for the same goal, and just to be in that space, and you don't get that very often. So.
And it's like one of those things that we all have to do, no matter who, you know what I mean? Yes. Some of us get to do it at home. Everyone's got to clean their clothes, no matter what car you pulled up, and you still got to clean those clothes. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. There's a beauty in that.
Yeah.
And then this project, entirely produced by the man himself, Space Cadet.
Yeah.
You guys have been rocking for a while. What was it like to be like, all right, this whole thing is you?
It was awesome. It was amazing. I mean, to tell you the truth, that's always been my dream. My dream was to be a rapper, and I wanted my best friend to be a producer / DJ.
Oh my gosh.
And that's like all I ever wanted in life. And I wanted me and my best friend to travel the world making rap music, make the songs in the hotel, in the car, and then perform them on tour, you know? And then my friend, who I kind of wanted to be like that, you know, didn't have the same dreams, right? So like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? But yeah, so Space is like somebody who I feel really comfortable with. And he's somebody that's always like, we've worked together on projects before, and he just always kind of like pushes me to be a better version of me. You know, you have people that push you, but they're not always pushing you where you necessarily should be going or want to be going. And it comes from not necessarily like understanding you properly, kind of, right? Like, I'm trying to help you, but if I don't fully understand you, then like I can't fully help you, right? Whereas Space is somebody who now I feel like really knows me as a person, and then also kind of like knows my musical abilities. Sometimes your friends know what you want a little bit better than you know what you want at times, and things like that. So it's like, I think he really brings great things out of me. We worked way closer on this album than we've ever worked before. Like, I got to sit there when he was making almost every single beat we made. We did everything really together. You could almost say I co-produced with him, and you could almost say that he co-wrote with me, like on certain songs and things. Like, it was very interactive, which was tight.
I love that so much, because you really manifested that in a way that wasn't contrived or corny. It's so interesting to have that goal but to not force it, because your guys' friendship is so genuine. And there's also something so beautiful in him just exuding that, because he's also trying to make it, and he also has goals in mind. So that selflessness to be like, no, I want to help you, I know it's best for you, like really helping you in a way where, you know, he could be selfish and do it all for himself and, you know, have these ideas and just do them. He raps, he makes beats. Like, if he had an idea, he could do it himself. So I think there's a really cool selflessness in that.
No, big time. That's what kind of allows me to be able to trust him like that, is because I'm like, you're not trying to get anything out of me. You're doing this because you want, you know what I mean? Like, this is what you want to be doing too, clearly. So, and it like represents you too. Like, you're not going to give me some corny ass suggestions. It's very much like a group effort.
Now we get into the track listing. Number 1, Sloppy.
Always talking about that I'ma change my ways. Rolling up another, I'ma change my mood. I'm the ambiance to the daylight ways. Sloppy in the lobby, but at least I'm not rude. Yeah, always talking about that I'ma change my ways. Rolling up another, I'ma change my mood. I'm the ambiance to the daylight ways. Sloppy in the lobby, I've been working on my smile a bit more. Excuse me's and pleases. The things you work for are usually the sweetest. I get lit off how juicy the beat is, but she got shit that could move me.
It just comes in so well. How did you know that was going to be the first track?
I didn't. That was Space Cadet. He was living in, or he is still living in Reading. He would come down on the weekends and stay for like 3-4 days. So then when it was all done recording, I put together a whole track list. The next time he came down and visited, I played it for him, and he's like, I don't know, man. Like, we got to rework this a little bit. I kind of had Sloppy like weird like skip over track, you know, like just kind of like a filler track almost. And he was like, no, dude, like this is a sick ass first song. And I don't know, it just fit. It kind of like sets a mood without like saying it. Like, I'm not making a statement with that song, but I'm just kind of like setting up a mood to be able to talk about everything else that comes afterwards, as opposed to like claiming what my album is about in the first song, you know?
It really sets up the introspection, and it also eases you into it, like the way the beat plays for a while before you actually start with the hook. It's just very inviting. I think this album has a calming aspect to it that we'll talk about throughout the songs, but that calming just kind of washes in like almost like an ocean, like oh, you're being taken into it. What was your idea of the first track? Do you remember?
I think maybe Suki, which is number 3, but that's like the kind of bang, like it comes in like banging like a little bit. In my mind, that was kind of like how I wanted to come in, and you know, and like you said, it kind of like sneaks in the album a little bit and like warms you up a little bit.
Love it. And then we've talked about this before. I'm a big fan of songs as letters, and we've talked about different songs on albums that you've done being letters. This one feels like a letter to, especially when you say like all these things you do, so distracting, keep on taking my time. So if you'd like to tell us, who was that a letter to?
That one was actually not a letter to anyone in particular. I almost think it's, if anything, it's like a letter to almost like the life style, the life that I'm in, kind of where it is kind of like this sloppy but beautiful mess of like kind of being fucked up, kind of fucking up, while also you're kind of like doing amazing at the same time. And it's just kind of like weird world. There are so many distractions that are kind of like these beautiful things that are like pulling you in certain ways, and you're just trying to like kind of balance everything. It's an interesting song because it's like very hard for me to put my finger on exactly what it is that I'm talking about the whole time, but it's like a feeling that I'm talking about based on like just where I'm at in life.
No, I think that's dope though, and it makes sense because even on other songs in the album too, like you just talk about lifestyles and how a lot of things aren't necessary, and it's like, why does everything have to be a movie? Like what are we doing here? But I think that that's interesting too, because I had to ask who was that letter to, because it's been about weed, it's been about yourself, like you know what I mean, like there's levels to the letters almost. So it's cool to hear that that wasn't someone, that was just a thing and a feeling.
Yeah, if anything, it's like almost to like the vices of the life that we lead. They're fun things too. Like I'm not gonna say like I'm not trying to get drunk and party. I definitely am. I'm just trying to do it in a smooth way.
Yes. Then we get to Better One with Blimes.
Cooking in spite of them, 'cause they got a good thing. But we got a better one. Roll up some good green. As soon as my set is done, she got the good genes. And etc. It's like I envision. I'm seeing visions. 'Cause they got a good thing. But we got a better one. Roll up some good green. As soon as my set is done, she got the good genes.
I love her so much.
Yes,
and
she's amazing.
The way she's evolving into her own sound is just blowing my mind.
Yeah.
And I think this is a perfect example of that. Her on the hook and then her spitting a verse. It's just such a good sound for her. What was it like working with her on this one?
It was sick. It was super sick. She's somebody that I've wanted to work with for a long time, and we've like talked about things in the past, but it's never really come to fruition because we were just both doing our own thing. But I just like really hounded her about this one. I was like, no, like you are the person that like, I don't care. I didn't have any other features at that time, and I was kind of like, I don't care if I don't have another, like you are the one that I want on this album, you know? I had written my first, I think only my first verse. No. I had written both of my verses already, but I was like, no, I want you on this song. So I sent it to her and she was like, yeah, it's cool. Like I'm down. I'm going to be up in the Bay actually for my birthday. Like I'll just come by and record it. And I was like, sick. And so she showed up. She's always hella busy. She's been going all over the place recently. So she only had like 4 bars of her verse written that I think she might've like wrote in her head on the drive over or some shit like that. So she just sat there in my room and wrote that shit in the studio. Like you've been inside there. It's like a little ass studio. And my bed's in there in the next room and shit. So that's where like her line comes where she says, I don't need a bed, need a studio. Like, and she's just literally sitting there. I was doing my taxes. She said something in there about taxes. So she's sitting there writing. I already have all my shit done. So I'm just sitting there with the beat playing, but I had this stack of taxes like that. I had to go through all my taxes. So she's just kind of like looking around my room, like throwing shit into it. Was tight. It was hella fun. And then she just kind of like asked me like, yo, you fuck with that? And I was like, yeah, keep going. Like, but it was tight. She does have such a cool sound where it's like, what I love about her is you can tell she grew up listening to a lot of the same music that I grew up listening and loving. And she's like a real hip hop head. She's a real spitter. But then we also, all of our tastes develop and they're diverse and stuff like that. Like I don't just like boom bap hip hop music. I love boom bap hip hop music, but that's not all I like. And that's not all I listen to, especially anymore. And so she's somebody that's like created her own sound in such a cool, but like genuine way. It's very like authentic. And I just think that's super sick. You know what I mean?
I love that she was like freestyling the moment in a sense, but she's so talented that she did it in a way to where it's like a cohesive verse that's about the top, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it fits perfectly.
Right.
And that's funny too that you mentioned her line about a bed, because you had a line about a bed. This is a whole sidebar. I don't know if you notice it, but there is a lot of references to sleep throughout this album and like not getting sleep and not wanting sleep. I think that's super interesting, and I think that's
because I was literally living in a studio. It's like it was a weird It was great, but it was a weird experience. Like, my bed was in the small room. The big, like the real living room was a studio. Like, you're either in bed or you're in a studio. And it's like a weird feeling. Like, every time I wasn't supposed to be asleep, I felt like I was supposed to be making music, right? And like, there's nothing else to do in there. I didn't even have a fucking TV in there. Like, there's nothing else to do in there. So you're just either sleeping or making music. And it's kind of a weird thing.
It definitely makes perfect sense. So you say so many sleepless nights thinking if I need a bed. And that's interesting to me too, because I've known creatives who got rid of their bed just to be more productive. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's something that happens. So every time you say that line, like, I think about that, and it's just like, I just want to tell people, like, you do need a bed, you do need rest. Like, we've been doing this long enough that we can give you the advice that, like, no, you do need a bed, you need rest.
For sure. No, it definitely helps.
And then we have to talk about the remix. Andre Nicotina, Zion I, and Blimes, of course, still on there.
Yeah.
I love it because it's not only such a good representation of the Bay Area, but it's also such a good representation of you and your music career and the things that you have paved out for yourself and these connections that you've made because you love these people's music, you respect them, and you've spent quality time with them.
Yeah.
What was it like getting all of them on the remix?
It was sick. It felt really cool to put Zion I and Andre Nicotina on a song together. To my knowledge, they've never worked together on a song before, but they're like legends in the Bay Area, and I think they represent what's so sick about the Bay Area is they can both coexist as legends in the Bay Area, and it's like, that's what's tight. And I think that is a lot about, like, I didn't grow up in the Bay, but I grew up in the North Bay, and this was the closest hip-hop community we had, so that's who we identified with, like, as our people, you know? And that's something that really shaped me, was like the diversity of the music in the Bay. And so I think that it's tight, and I think it's tight that they're on a fucking Space Cadet beat. Like, Space Cadet is not, you know, like Andre Nicotina producer or like a Zion I producer, you know what I mean? It's just tight, like all these people coming together, and then having Blimes on there too as well. Still, like, it was really cool to be able to like have all of us together and still have it sound cohesive, like, and still have it sound like we're supposed to be here together, even though this is not who was supposed to be together, you know what I mean, kind of. And it's cool too that they are people that I've been around. Like, I've traveled in with Dre and with Zumbi before, and like had conversations with them and kicked it with them and stuff. So it was tight.
No, the cohesiveness is so cool because there's so many songs out there where people get features or get a remix, and it's just like, wait, did you actually hear the actual song? Like, that shit drives me crazy.
Right.
I was gonna talk about that with the Grouch on Clean, because he completely just took everything you were saying and embodied it in his own way, and that song is just incredibly cohesive. But we'll get to that. Now we get to Sookie.
Yes.
I've been feeling so good that I just might buy myself a light. If I take another, I think I might find myself tonight. Keep all of these secrets from my friends, then go and tell her Mike. She says she's not a freak, but that just seems that's what she's hella liking. Oh, I'm not the one that would make you apologize, no. I see too much on my own just to follow lies. Running your mouth when it's all a myth, biting your lip when it all arrives. Oh, she swallowed
when
me
you
like
say finding a new dimension, what does that mean to you?
That song is very much about kind of just getting fucked up and like enjoying that, getting lost, a little similar to Sloppy, like being in that lifestyle of just, I'm running around traveling with no sleep, but like loving shit and partying. It's like partying your ass off while you're struggling your ass off at the same time. That kind of like feeling of almost like being delirious almost or whatever, but like enjoying it like in a fun way, you know? Yeah, that's what that was about, I think. That honestly is a song where like I loved that beat so much. I love that beat way more than I like the song. Like, that was one of my favorite fucking beats. And so it was just something that I was just like writing to, just to be able to write to that beat almost, you know what I mean?
I think you did a great job. Another one you don't have to answer about that one. Been high since I was old enough. What's old enough?
Well, that was just kind of like supposed to be, you know, funny for that reason. I've been high since I was very young, though. I got high. I don't know if my parents ever heard that. But yeah, I just thought that was like a funny line. Like, you know what I mean? What is old enough to be high? Whenever the fuck I say it is.
Whenever it happened.
I also believe that. I think being old enough to get high is a very subjective thing, right? Some people are never old enough to get high. Or like some people should. I truly believe some people should not smoke weed. Like, I don't think it's the answer for everyone, or I don't think it gels well with everybody. You know what I mean? So some people need to be 30 when they start smoking. Some people, I mean, I wouldn't encourage people to necessarily start smoking at like 10, 11, 12, but some people do and they turn out fine, you know?
It's very subjective. You're completely right. And then Run.
I think I might overthink too much. All of this baggage that clings to us. Wonder what's not what you think it was. Maybe everything's different, stressing what isn't, and I think I might overthink too much. All of this baggage that clings to us. Wonder what's not what you think it was. Maybe you could get out of your feelings and you could just run. Maybe you could get out of your feelings and you could just run. Sometimes flying kind of feels like falling. Sometimes
My goodness gracious. Before we talk about the song, I just want to talk about the concept of the music video. Was it your idea? Was it the director's idea? How did that collaboration work?
It was the director's idea, Erica Eng, and then I kind of like tweaked her idea a little bit. I kind of had an idea similar to that too. With her, she's so good at these ideas that whenever I bring a video to her, I never tell her what I'm thinking first. Like, I don't even want to color what she's going to think with what I was already thinking. I'd rather hear what she says and then be like, all right, this is what I was thinking though. Can we tweak it this way a little? That was definitely something that she just brought kind of organically to the table.
When I think about that, I remember like you giving us like a little bit of behind the scenes and stuff like that, and it just felt like you were damn near an actor, not like a method actor, but like there was hard work that went into that. Like you're literally running and rapping for like this huge span.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that experience and where you guys were? Because it was gorgeous.
Yeah, we were actually out in beautiful Van Nuys, California. No, but it's sick out there. I love the desert. Like, I'm somebody who really loves big, open, empty spaces.
Yes.
And there's something really beautiful about like the simplicity of that to me. So it was really beautiful. And we were out there, like, our goal was basically to be shooting like right around that kind of golden hour before the sun sets. And that's right when we were out there. So it was really beautiful out there. That's something I like. I've shot 2 videos with her now. She very much runs it like a full produced film. It's cool for me. Like, it's really a learning experience. And it's one of those times, very rarely do I just put something in someone else's control with things I'm doing musically. You almost can't. The number of videos I've co-directed without ever saying I co-directed those videos is like countless. You know what I mean? Like, who came up with this concept? Me. Who wrote this? Me. Who got the props? Me. You shot it and edited it. But she's somebody who I really can just trust to turn it over to. Kind of like, you know, someone I found like Space Cadet, where I feel comfortable. And I'm learning to, when I find somebody who I feel comfortable, really turn it over to them, because they are much better than me at this. I'm not a videographer. I'm not a director. She's clearly better at it than me. All I need is for her to understand me and gel with me. I'm like, I need to turn it over to you. So it's really cool, just kind of like following her directions. And it looks like such a simple video, but like, I have to be a certain distance away from the car every time I start rapping. We have these like things where kind of we're moving apart, stopping, moving in close, and like those are supposed to be happening at specific times during the song and shit. So it really is about like kind of timing things out. We ran through it a few times without even shooting it. She'd be like, all right, get close. You know, she's just sitting in this car just screaming at me like, come on, get closer.
Yes.
But it was tight. It was a lot of fun. I ran a lot though, and it's hot as fuck out there.
And that's why I'm so glad that you put out parts of behind the scenes of that, because it was such hard work and it was just very thought out. Like you were saying, like you have to be in certain places and certain lines and literally running in the desert the whole time. Like, I just appreciate that you shared that with people, that this wasn't just an easy video shoot.
It's very simple. It's a super simple video, but I think sometimes people like forget about what really goes into making things and like making really good things. Like, sometimes making the simpler thing is harder work. You know what I mean? Like, we could have hella girls and cars and lights and flashing around and bouncing around. Like, to make something good where it's literally just me in front of the camera on this plain ass street moving in the same direction and still make it interesting, like, I think there's a beauty in that, you know? You
guys did a fantastic job. It's gorgeous. It fits the song. And when it comes to that song, I think a lot of people, especially nowadays, I hear it a lot of people, when they need clarity or their mind is just out of control, they'll go running and they'll get clarity from running. But there's also just running away from everything.
Right.
So how do you view it when it comes to this song?
For me, running is like, that is how I get clarity. And that's one of the ways I keep myself from ever like slipping into depression. That's like my way of getting myself out of that in a very like straightforward, easy fucking way, without it having to be difficult or like fucking with my mind in any type of way, you know? Yeah. But separately, like when I use the term run, I always think about it in 2 ways. There's running away from something and there's running towards something. Yeah. And we think of those as two different things, but sometimes that's the same thing too. That's always been something that's really, I don't know, it's weird. Like when I start fucking around with songs, like I hear a beat, you know, you start humming like melody or kind of mouthing out words. One word that always pops into my mind is run, like running towards or something, like, I don't know, it's just weird. But it is something I kind of think about because I always feel like, oh, I'm running towards something. And then I'm like, wait, no, am I running away from something? Or am I running towards something? And then sometimes when you feel like you're running away from something, you realize, no, I am running towards something else. And I don't know, it's just something I've always kind of like played with in my mind musically, that idea.
Yeah, because I think that's a super interesting concept just in life. Like, what are you running away from? What are you running towards? And to bring that into the music and for you to feel that when you hear certain beats, I think is super interesting too. Like, where are we going with this?
It's because it's kind of like this uneasiness. Like, everything isn't always just this balance of like good, bad, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. There is like a lot more complexity in things, but what I know is I feel uneasy and I need to go somewhere else and like push myself to get there no matter what the reason is. You know what I mean? It's kind of like this uneasiness that is pushing me forward or whatever, you know?
I'm gonna be thinking about that for a couple days. Goodness. Man. Then we get to patience.
Sick of feeling like I'm so stuck. Should probably be full of myself, but so what? They thought I fell off of my shit, but no luck. Just did a whole tour and didn't even throw up in a circle that's been holding me down. Respect my journey, bitch. Please accept my verbiage. Won't act just like my record is the fresh white pearliest. Apologies, cause send like 30ish. This fucking job has got me working all day. It's worth it all night. It's all the extra
Very reflective. I mean, we already painted the picture of this album being introspective, but this one's particularly reflective. When you say rather fall than to fake this, what was it like writing that one? Do songs like this just kind of come out of you because they are so reflective, or is it a harder writing process because it's so honest? What does that look like?
Honestly, this was a song that wasn't even supposed to be reflective. I was trying to make this like a fun sing along, like hang out, party, have fun type of song, you know what I mean? So like it's just what naturally came out of me, and so it's like easier for me to sometimes just talk like that's what I was feeling, so that was way easier for me to talk about than to like come up with some party song just because the beat was fun. And so it didn't feel hard at all. Like I was almost fighting myself from saying some of the things I said, but then I just realized like, yo, this is what this song is about. This is what I'm saying. This is what the song is about, you know?
Oh man. And then you say, I was different when I wrote this, just at Space out in Reading like Otis, and you talked earlier about how he does live in Reading. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's such a good line. What do you mean when you say I was different when I wrote this? Everyone
always talks about like, oh, you've changed. And I'm like, yes, I have. You know what I mean? Like we kind of forget like, and we even talked about this before we started recording. I was saying like, yo, this is only 3 months old, this album, but it feels old because we're always like moving on and stuff. And so it is just feeling like when I wrote that song, by the time you guys heard it, I was a different person. Like I'm a different person right now than when I wrote these songs that we're talking about. You know what I mean? So I remember talking to somebody one time when I was kind of telling them like, all right, I put out my album, I need to do this next shit. And they're like, you're tired of this because you've been listening to it for a year and a half. They have been listening to it for 3 weeks. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so it is an interesting thing. Like by the time the public hears music, I'm in a different place. Exactly. I wrote those things about the place I was in at now. That was like maybe a year ago, 9 months ago, something like that. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of like where that line came from.
I feel like that's such a cool way to look at things. Because of course, as an artist, you're going to have that thought process. But to put it on a track in a way, it's meta, but it's a cool meta to be like, I know that after this comes out, I'm going to be different than I was because that's what's happened before. So I'm going to put it on the record like this. I just think you did that in such a cool way.
And I also like kind of reminded little times whenever I say like there's tracks where I was listening to one where I'm saying something about being scared, being different than I used to be. Like I like to say shit like that just so that sometimes other people feel like, okay, it's okay for me to feel like that too. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because like I hate feeling like I feel a certain way that I'm not supposed to feel like just because other people are saying that shit. And to be cool, I'm not supposed to feel that way. And I'm like, no, I know you guys feel that way, but like you don't say it. You know what what I mean? And it's like, no, it's okay to be a different person than you were before. Like, we're supposed to be growing and shit. Like, don't feel like you have to, if there's something you don't like, go change that shit. Like, you don't have to sit in that, you know?
Exactly. I think that's another thing before we were talking about, like, you know, just unlearning these things, team no sleep, and all these weird things that we've adopted along the way just because that's what people are saying. And I think that's one of them, is just like, oh no, you have to be the same person all the time and don't ever change. And it's like, no, change is one of the most important things in your life, and you need to embrace it and you need to change it. And even going back to control, we were talking about how you control so many aspects of your life, and that's part of it. Like you said, if you don't like something, go change, go do it differently.
So much you can do, you know what I mean? But it's hard. I struggle from the same shit. That's why I write about it.
Yeah, nobody said it was easy, but it is possible. Yes, now we get to clean, which I kind of alluded to earlier with the Grouch.
So when the rain it falls down, just bring it all down and wash us clean. I know you feel like running to hide from something and see no way. But when the rain it falls down, just bring it all down, we'll be okay.
People always asking God to take away the pain, but life without the pain be pretty lame. You can't maintain that. If all we ever had was sun, I beg to get the rain back. Do my rain dance, it's advanced, I can't explain though. Balance make the man grow.
I was just saying how he really got it. I not only love when artists do that, but I love when two artists that I love do that together in such a cool way. What was it like working with him?
I don't think he had any idea, or maybe he had heard my name or something, but we didn't know each other at all. I got that to him through his manager, and I think the reason it sounds so good is because I think the only reason he did that song is because he liked the song so much. It had nothing to do with liking me or like feeling an allegiance to me in any type of way, I don't think, because he even told me afterwards, he's like, you're damn near the only person I've ever done a song for that I don't know anything about you.
Wow. And I think that could be offensive, but I think it's so cool. Yeah, no, that's a compliment. Like, you like the song so much you don't know who I am. That's dope.
And you could feel it in the way that he comes into the song. It's like that's his song too. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like a feature at all. Like, it's his song too. He's been public about certain things in his life with ups and downs of his life and the beauty of having a daughter, the maybe heartbreak of her mother and you splitting up and you know, like, I don't know where those words he was saying came from because I wasn't sitting there when he wrote them and we haven't talked about it, but I could tell he felt that shit and I could tell he was going through the same things that I was singing about in my hook, and it just felt very natural. It was weird because like I met him for the first time a couple weeks ago. I did 2 shows with him, and that was like the first time I even talked to him in person and shit. It was kind of a trip, him being like, you know, I just really like this song. Like, I don't even know who you are.
Shit, we'll take it. That's a damn good compliment.
Yeah.
I think this song really embodies what I was talking about earlier too, as far as it being so calming and so gorgeous. And in this one, you just have so many realizations that are almost like mantras, but not in a corny way, in like a real authentic way. What space were you in when you wrote this?
Honestly, I don't even remember. To tell you the truth, this song was actually written a long time before these other ones. This came out, I put it out as just a single before, but then I wanted to add it to the album too. I don't even remember when I wrote this song, to tell you the truth. But I think something I've been, you know, trying to deal with is like the duality of this lifestyle that we lead and like trying to chase dreams and like, you know what I mean, follow your heart and shit. And we were talking about this even before we started recording, and then also trying to balance, like, there is a reason you want money. There is a reason you want family. There is a reason you want security and stuff. Like, those are things we actually want in life. But then I also have this like drive for more like wilder side of life, or the exciting, and not always being secure with things, and these rushes that you get from doing something based on passion as opposed to logic or something like that. You know what I mean? And so I think that's very much something I've been dealing with, is trying to find the peace and the beauty with, like, I don't know if that's ever going to be different for me. I think I'm always going to be looking for security, and I'm also always going to be looking for a rush that might not be the best decision. And trying to like find beauty in those ups and downs. I don't think the balance ever just like exists. It's something that you have to like find, that kind of, you have to create it for yourself a little bit and like come to terms with things for yourself. And so I think that's kind of where that song came from for me.
Yeah, definitely coming to terms with it and owning it. And I think that sometimes we do worse things to run away from those urges. And it's like, no, if you just own the fact that like, okay, sometimes I like to do wild shit, and some times I like to do very normal shit that people think I shouldn't do.
Being extremely responsible.
Yeah, like, and once you understand that both of those things are a part of you and they're gonna come into play every so often, like, I think that's where, like you said, it doesn't necessarily become balance, but it becomes an understanding of like, okay, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to do from time to time.
You know, it's like this feeling like nothing is constant, right? Like even when you think about like the nature and shit, like the moon waxes and wanes, right? Yeah. The tide goes in and out. Like maybe that is the balance, the fact that it's always moving and it's always different. And like your emotions, you're experiencing these beautiful things, you're experiencing these heartbreaking things. And maybe the balance is not just a flat line. It's like the overall of these ups and these downs, kind of, you know what I mean?
Absolutely poetic. Goodness gracious. But that's even what you guys are saying in the song too. You think you don't want problems and you think you don't want these things that you think are bad, but it's like, okay, then what would we be doing?
Right.
You know,
sometimes it's good to remember that the feeling of crying can be a great thing even when it's a really fucking sad thing. You know what I mean? Like sometimes that is a great thing, you know?
Man, then we get to do something featuring Space Cadet.
I can't take it, look at all that. I can see the sun, let's go out and do something with a couple of it, trying to steal mine. We can get some lunch, I ain't trying to do nothing except for have some fun, I can see the sun, let's go out and do something, roll a couple up, then I'll hit the crew up and we can get some lunch. I ain't trying to do nothing except for have some fun, except for have some fun. I keep getting stuck inside.
You talked about how you guys work so closely together on this project. You talked about him kind of co-writing with you too. So what was it about this song where it was like, okay, I'm going to actually have you as a feature on this one?
He co-produced both of my 2 last albums, so he did half of each of those. I don't know, he's a good ass rapper, like he's fun to rap with. So it's almost like us holding back from it not being more of him featured on my album. Yeah. It's like, all right, we can only do one. You know what I mean? Instead of like, at some point we would love to do an album together. Like it's just not the right time. Yeah. But it's so easy for us to just make music together. So it's almost like, I almost got to like cut him out of other songs. Yeah. That's the problem. But so like with this one, it was funny because the last 2 albums, he was on 2 tracks that he didn't produce because he kind of likes rapping over shit that he didn't make. So I'd be like, all right, choose one of these. These are the other tracks on the album. Tell me which one you want to hop on. Yeah. And that's kind of how I did this one. I was like, all right, we got like 5 beats we're sitting on right now. Like we had been going at it for a while. And so I was kind of dried up on my own. Like we had been trying to make these songs that were my songs. And so then I was like, all right, now's a good time for us to do something together. Kind of like take the fucking pressure off me here for a second.
And bring in an energy that's a little different.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, these are like the 5 other beats we're sitting on right now. Which one do you want to do? And he was like, let's do this one, you know? So yeah, it was just very natural thing sitting there together, making a song together.
Then I have to ask, do you have a certain affection for Old Navy?
No, I don't. But there's always been something about those commercials. You remember those? I don't even know if they do them anymore because I don't really watch like regular TV, but they just seem like the happiest commercials ever. You know what I mean? Like very false, fake-ish to a certain extent. There's something about those commercials that always just bright and sunny type of commercials. I did used to wear a little Old Navy back in the day. Back in the day though, when like cargo shorts were really in. That was a great place to get cargo shorts.
They were the go-to for cargo shorts and windbreakers. Those windbreakers.
Yeah, I actually did have an Old Navy windbreaker at one time.
We all did. It was great. I don't understand how they make money anymore, but
they're still everywhere.
Everywhere.
I don't get it.
I don't know who buys it, but more power to them. Hey,
I think like kids and parents, like young kids get it bought for them by their parents. You know what I mean? And then their parents, like people who drive minivans.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting. Shout out to them. But yeah, no, you're completely spot on with the commercials. They're so bright and just like, and I think at some point they were almost like making fun of themselves. Like I almost remember them using like mannequins as people, and like that's how fake it was.
Yeah. It'd be like a beach, but inside of a white studio or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Wild. Oh man. Then of course we get to my favorite, because she is always on my favorite songs with you. Like I just, every time I try to fight it, but I can't. It's too good. We get to Like It, featuring Kianci.
Garden and have to be on my garden was never much for the begging, unless it's begging your pardon. I feel it all in my soul, and I pray that it never hardens to give me shit for the bargain. I know it.
I think I like me. I think I like me. I think they like it. I think they like it. I think I like me. I think they like it.
I know what I like about it. I think you guys just flow so well. I think she's so talented and such a good writer, and mixed with your talent in your writing and just what you guys are able to bring out from each other, especially like emotionally and not shying away from feelings. Why was it important to you to have her again on this album?
I just think she's fucking dope. Like, she's one of the most talented people that I know who's like in my circle of people who haven't fully got on yet. And she's really fucking talented and really sick. And so we've done like 3 real songs together now. I think on my last 3 albums, I had her on each of them. The first one on The Good Panda, I wrote what she was singing. And I just needed someone tight to sing it. And I had met her recently and I was like, she's tight, come sing it. Then on Be Fucking Happy, that was a song where I wrote my verse. It was one of my favorite beats, but I didn't know what to do with the hook. So I just gave it to her. I was like, come up with whatever you can come up with. And she wrote that shit. And I was like, whoa, like, you're a sick ass writer too. Like, you just took everything I was talking about and created a hook out of it without using any of the same words I was using. You made me feel like I didn't know what I was talking about. And you just told me what I was talking about right there. And that was kind of what it was with this song. It was like, I love this beat. I really like my verse. I don't know what to say to necessarily package what I'm talking about and make it sound good. Let's see if you can. And it was, once again, she just like perfectly kind of writes out the feelings I'm going through. She's somehow was like able to relate to them too, I guess, and kind of encapsulate them in a beautiful chorus, you know what I mean? And it's the same kind of thing, like trusting. I think it's something to do with actually knowing people who really like what I do. Yeah. You know, you work with a lot of people who are like working with you because you can get them somewhere or because you're good at this and so they're trying to get this or whatever. You know what I mean? And like over time, I really value working with people that I actually think like my music. And she's someone who will hit me up and be like, yo, I've been listening to like Be Fucking Happy or what, it's shit that she's not on. You know what I mean? And she's like, yo, this shit's hitting me, blah, blah, blah. And it just makes me be able to really trust them more because I'm like, you're somehow feeling what I'm feeling too right now. And so I know you're not going to come on my song like, fuck bitches get money. You know what I mean? Like whatever, like you understand me and you're super talented. Sick. Come do this with me. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, we spend so much of our time being misunderstood and just trying to tell people who we are or what we're doing and try to explain things to people to kind of bring it down so it's less misunderstood. But there's always going to be those people who just get you, and that is the most golden thing. And to hear you stepping out creatively into that is so important because these people are so good at what they do, and for you to just give them this free range to do them as well but in a way that suits you, like I just think that's so harmonious and it's so good.
I mean, I think it's a lot about getting better, and it's like almost something that I've almost held myself back sometimes because I'm like not trusting enough of other people and just letting go of that control sometimes. And like letting go of that control sometimes really, none of us get to where we're at just by ourselves. Like as much as we want to act like it's because of other people. And the more you can let other people in to positively influence you, like go fucking ahead, you know, like help me. I would love help. Everything. Help me out, you know?
Yeah, but it's such an important part, like you said, of the elevation. Like if we're going to elevate this, I'm going to bring these people in, I'm going to trust them, and that's how it's going to work.
Right.
On this song, you say, my merch is paying my rent now. I don't even want you to break that down. I just want to congratulate you. I've known you for a long time, and just hearing that made me happy.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
I mean, there was a minute there where I was touring heavy and it was sick.
So cool. But we've talked about it before too, like you have such an interesting style of touring and you're just so built into like the budgeting of it and doing it right, and to hear that pay off just made me personally happy. And I hope that fans of your music and people who know you also hear that line and feel happy too.
I mean, like as shallow as it is, there's such a good fucking feeling off making legitimate money off your shit, like off music, off your merch, all that, off your shows. It's really fucking rewarding to pay your fucking bills with music money. Is a really rewarding feeling.
I don't think it's shallow, but we don't have another hour for me to talk about how that isn't shallow, so yeah, it's all good. Then the last track, Fly on My Own. Man.
Even if it means goodbye to my home, goodbye to my way, they just want the fortune and fame. I wish I could fly on my own. I spent a week trapped in my own head just running laps. I I spend a paycheck on a weekend, hope I'm done with that. Don't tell me we can make it here and still not feel a purpose. Been treading water, guess it's time to let these feelings surface. I'm scared of exposing my lies and scared of being
You're
judged.
just expressing your fears, yet being aspirational, but it's through this togetherness. What was it like making that one?
That was one of those songs that definitely started the minute when Space was making the beat, sitting in my studio making the beat together. Like once he gets to a certain point with the beat, then I kind of start trying to come up with shit to it while he's still making it. And so I just kind of had that hook just came to my mind first. Basically wrote that before the beat was even done. And it was just one of those songs that just kind of like flowed out of me. Like it wasn't, that's kind of how a lot of my songs are, to tell you the truth. I'm not like, I'm going to write a song about this or I'm going to write a song about that. It's more like this beat made me feel something. I know what this feeling is. Let me talk about it, kind of. And that's what that was. And it's almost kind of interesting because like by the end of the song, I almost have realized something about myself. Like, oh, that's what I'm feeling. Like, I had this feeling before, but I didn't know what it was. And then it's kind of like me putting down the words and being like, oh, that's why I feel this way. That was one of those songs. And it is kind of multidimensional. Like, it's not like just about one exact thing. I was actually listening to that one on the way over here, and I kind of realized again, like, what that song is about independence. And it's not just independence like being solo or like going about it secluded from other people. It's about the independence to choose who you go about it with and how you go about it. I've kind of realized with this music shit, like that's my dream. Like I don't need anything to be different than it is right now other than being able to, and it sucks, but it's like to have that financial independence to literally just keep doing things how I want to keep doing them. I'm happy with all aspects of my life right now, except for the fact that they're not secure, that I get to keep doing them forever. I want the security to know that I can keep doing things the way I want to keep doing them for the rest of my life because it's fucking beautiful right now. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what it's about. It's like melancholy almost because it's sad thinking about having to give up this shit. It's sad thinking about certain things not working out. Like I'm in love with somebody. It's sad thinking about not being able to provide for that. I want to have kids. It's sad thinking of not, you know, but these are also happy fucking things too. Like to think about having to give up music. That's the saddest thing in the world. But it's like such a happy feeling to be able to have it. And I think that's what that song is about, is like, and I think everyone wants that. Like I just want to be able to do what the fuck I want to do. Like shit.
Man.
Like it doesn't need to be balling out. I just want to be able to do what I want to do. Like I think I'm starting to figure out what that is and I want to keep it.
Yeah, it's just sustainability. We just want to sustain. And I think that in the same vein of my merch is paying my rent now and how happy that made me to hear that, in the same way, like it's great to hear that everything is so good in your life and the main problem is just figuring out how to sustain it. Like
right.
Even though there's a problem within that, you have to, and I do for you, like I appreciate that you've made it to that point.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Everything else is in line and you just want to be able to sustain that. Like shit, congratulations on that. Like you know what I mean? Like that's
for sure.
Cool to hear too.
Yeah, I think that's something like kind of going along with the album title is kind of like the idea of Tuesday also is almost like we're here. Like why do we keep talking about like when this happens or when we get like I'm fucking here. This is what it is. This is a great moment too. You know what I mean? This fucking Tuesday is a great moment. Why do we keep looking for somewhere else that we're supposed to be, you know?
Yes. And then Fly on My Own, of course, all the production on this album is phenomenal. But this one sticks out to me because it almost sounds like a music box. Like, you know, those little jewelry boxes that you open and they play music? Like, that's really what it sounds like for me. Of course, I'll ask Space Cadet when he comes on the podcast very soon. But in your experience, what was it like watching him make that beat in particular?
That almost felt to me like, because when we were kind of trying to craft the sounds, we were definitely trying to like take my sound, not sound like my previous shit, and have the beats move somewhere different and move and progress. And that to me was almost one of those songs that sounded more like one of my older songs in the way it's produced. There's some, I don't know, it's just, there's things like, it's usually the melody. There's something in these melodies that like really strikes a chord with me, which is similar on Run too. Like to me, I don't know, you know, everyone hears things differently. To me, both of those songs are like undeniable melodies in those beats that just like fucking hit me somewhere, that make me feel an emotion. And that's what draws me to the beat. Any beat the most is like something in that melody that fucking hits an emotion with me, like strikes a chord with me. And so that's one of those songs where it's like I almost don't even hear what the fuck else is going on in that beat. It's just that fucking that piano. Like that beat could just be a piano to me. It's undeniable to me. Like there was no way I wasn't writing to that song. There was a big chance that song wasn't even going to end up on the album, but there was no way I knew I was going to write that song. There's no way I wasn't writing it. And I even wrote it almost feeling like I wasn't even going to put it on the album and maybe save it for some other shit or whatever. Once I started going through my songs and everything, it felt right. Felt like it kind of like summed up what I'm talking about while still leaving it open, because it is open. It's not like I figured my whole life out in these 9 songs or something.
And that's okay. We're still here for it. Anything else you want to tell the people about Tuesday? It's out now. Go listen to it.
Yes, go listen to it. Lots. No, I think that's it.
And then, of course, since you're here, we got to ask you, what's next?
It's just more new music. Like I have another project I've probably been working out on for like the past 3-4 months maybe with a dude named Tracy, who you might recognize his name. He's part of that group I Lam that I used to tour with a lot. And he's one of my homies from high school actually.
Damn.
And he was the first dude that took me on tour with his group, like I don't know how long ago, but a while ago. But he's been producing a ton and his production is dope as fuck. He lives in a regular house out by the beach in Bodega Bay, but he has this little ass studio like up on the hill, up on the cliff, overlooking the beach. It's dope as fuck. I've just been traveling up there and going and sitting in there for like weekends at a time, kind of like me and Space did, and like making beats together, or he's making the beats, I'm sitting there and giving him ideas and then writing songs. So that's been tight. So that's the next shit. But in the meantime, keep listening to Tuesday, because it's going to be a minute before that stuff comes out.
I'm like, yeah, now you've gotten all the behind the scenes stuff. Now you can go listen to it in a different light. You know? That's what I always do, at least as a consumer. Like, oh snap, now I just want to listen to it even more, because now I know the ins and outs and how it came about. And that's why I love this show. But I love how important proper collaboration is to you. Like, I love the thought of you going up for weekends at a time and just sitting in the studio with somebody and really working on a very cohesive, genuine sound between the two of you.
It's less about me like trying to do quality control or anything, and it's more just about me wanting to do what's fun. And it's almost easier. Like, you know, I have written a lot of songs sitting alone in a room by myself, and I still do. But it's really fun to work with other people. Like, when I feel like we have something genuine together, like you said, then it becomes really fucking fun. It doesn't feel like working. You know what I mean? It feels like something fresh and new, because it's not just the same thing you did last time.
And that's how it should feel.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell the people?
Nah. Shout out Miss Special.
Whoa. He's known me so long, he calls me Miss Special. Man.
Special, excuse me.
No, you're good.
No?
I'll just, these days I'll answer to anything. I don't, whatever. No, I appreciate that. The nostalgia in that is appreciated. It's not
always held me
not a
down,
bad thing. No, it's all good. And that's it. Thank you. And thank you so much for checking out this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that follow or subscribe button on whatever you're listening on. I have episodes coming up with Dizzy Wright, Win, Mick Jenkins, Beegis, Homeboy Sandman, and Rico G. So you don't want to miss those. Just hit that subscribe button and then reach out to me. Let me know what your favorite part was, or just say hi. I'm on Twitter at SpecialSays, and on Instagram it's at SpecialSays as well. As always, this episode is dedicated to Marlon. Do what you can to stop senseless acts of gun violence.